Welcome, listeners, to our podcast, Career Cafe. Today we're going to talk about decisions and destinations, how to accept and decline opportunities with Poise. So today we have Brandon Street, Jerry Ross, and Clara Webster joining us, and myself, McKinley Hatch. I will be the moderator in this session. So we're going to dive deep into this topic. So tell us a little bit about how you are experts in this area.
You know, I've done a significant amount of job negotiation and over the years, whether it was acceptals, denials, and I have a lot of experiences on both sides of this. People successfully accepting, people rejecting the offer positively, and all of the other ways that it can go right, wrong, and sideways.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. And I'm Brandon, and I've spent 20 years in career services field, working with individuals to get them jobs, learning how to appropriately accept those jobs, and we'll talk today a little bit about how to do that in a way that ensures that you're able to get the things that you negotiated as you went through the application process, and also accept that job professionally.
Yeah, I'm Clara. I've been working here in the Career Center for about a year and a half now, and have helped a lot of students kind of navigate this process. I'll have them come in and say, okay, I have these different job offers. How do I negotiate these, negotiate pay, that kind of stuff, and also have spent some time, on the hiring side here at SUU, and so I've seen all the different aspects from, negotiating these types of things to rejecting or accepting different offers.
Who doesn't want to learn about this topic,
Right.
Super interesting and very valuable for all of us as we navigate through our careers and everything. So let's talk about it more in depth. Let's talk about the first thing when you are given an offer, right? Let's evaluate that, right? Let's talk about what makes you decide yes or no.
Well, hopefully that started way before you got the job offer. If we're going into an interview even, and we haven't really looked into this company much, I think, we're doing ourselves a disservice at this point. We should know already what their culture is, who I'd be working with, what my core responsibilities would be, why I'm important, why they're hiring for this position. All these things should be answered. So as I go through that interview process, I already know, right? And hopefully through that interview process, I've been evaluating. I've asked the right questions at the end of interviews to ensure I know who they are, what they value, and again, what my role would be there, right? And so when we interview, we're kind of going through this process already of evaluation. So, I think it begins long before we are given the job offer.
Yeah, and with that too, there are kind of some outside factors you, of course, want to take into account. Where are you going to be living, right? If you're having to relocate, what is the cost of living there, right? Maybe it's a higher offer, but it costs way more to live there, so it's not really that much of a raise or something. So it's good to look at outside factors like that. What's the work-life balance going to be like? There's tons of different factors, that will go into whether or not I want this opportunity. But like Brandon said, hopefully, before you get this call telling you you've gotten the job, hopefully you've already put a lot of, real thought into this type of decision.
I've had some of these in my personal experience where we posted a wage for a position with the listing. So it wasn't necessarily negotiable. They knew what they were going to make. And we made it down through a set of finalists, and we get our number one. And that number one was going to have to relocate into that position. And when we offered that position, I'm sorry, I've looked into it, and I can't work in that area at that wage. And nothing had changed since the time they applied to the position to the time that we actually offered them position. So it was kind of a bummer for us to then have to go back to the drawing board and figure out who was our next best options when they could have just done some homework and figured out I can't work for that wage in that area. And it's honest, if you can't, that's perfectly fine, but realize those things before you waste people's time working them through to the end of the offer to just decline it and there's no new facts given.
Right, because if they were to come back to you and apply again, what would happen?
Nope.
Exactly. Right. And that's my point is what we're trying to teach today is how to leave a door open. Right. And if they were to have told you early on in this, hey, you know what, I'm really excited about this job and the company and everything. But as I look into this, I'm not sure that I could live on this wage well before you got to that point where you were offering the job. It'd probably be a different story. Right.
Absolutely. No hard feelings with honesty.
Right.
Right. But when they don't do their research, that's hard to continue on if another opportunity rose up later on in time.
Yeah, I love that story. You mentioned offering a job. Let's talk about as a candidate, you've, done your research, you have applied for this job, you've gone through the interview process, and you've been given the job offer. Let's talk about acceptance etiquette. How do you accept a job offer professionally?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the first things I always say start out with is, be gracious and grateful, right? Thank them for letting you know and for, letting you know about this, that you've, been selected for the opportunity. But definitely don't rush and just say, yes, I'm in, right? Because there's a lot of other factors now that you've got to look into, if there's going to be any negotiating. And also, it's good to take, even a day and just kind of think about it sometimes. If you've got family you've got to talk to about it, right? Like, don't feel like when they offer you the job, you immediately just have to say, yes, I'm in, let's do it. And so it's good to, say, oh, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me know. I'm really excited about, potentially coming and working for you. I did want to take some time to think about it. So is there a good time frame of when I should let you know my final decision, right? Just ask them, in a professional manner, when can I get back to you? Don't feel like you need to immediately jump in right there.
I think that's real good advice, Clara. And one thing I would, suggest is it's okay to say, hey, this is going to be an impact on my family, right? And so could I take a day? Could I take 48 hours? Would that be okay if I, took that to speak with my family? But let them know when you'll get back to them. I mean, it's really important to make sure they understand when you'll be getting back to them. Don't ever not get back to them. I mean, at that point, you've really, burned a bridge with that company if you just do not, if you ghost them, right? If you don't get back to them. And so ask for that time and take the time that you need. I don't think if a company is rushing you to make a decision right then, you have to evaluate if that's a company you want to work for, in my opinion, because, again, this doesn't just affect you. If you have a family, it could affect a family as well. And I think it's okay to take a day or even two and let them know, hey, is it okay if but as you said, make sure you're excited about that offer too. One thing you don't want, I've called people where you're like, are you even excited that I just offered you a job? Make sure you say, oh, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a pleasure going through this process with you. I am really excited, but again, this is going to affect my family. I'd like to just take a day or two to talk to them if you're okay with that.
Yeah. And also, I remember I've been on the receiving end of a few job denials, and letting them know why helps them possibly modify their job to be more competitive. And a lot of times the person that you're directly interacting with, the recruiter, they're not the one that sets the wage. They're not the one that sets the this or the that or the reason maybe you chose another job over this one. But sometimes giving them that information helps them go back to decision makers and say, we've had 3 offers and all of them have declined us for this reason. We need to adjust that as a company. And you help them grow sometimes by those denials if we're honest enough with them.
Brandon mentioned exploding offers a bit, which we'll dive into when they don't give you time to think about it if you ask for it and everything. But I did want to ask, what is an appropriate timeline to say? You had mentioned 48 hours or a day to think about it or 2. What is the longest you can say?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you've got to be careful not taking too long, right, to get back to them. I typically, my personal opinion is I think there can be different opinions depending on the employer too, right? But I think 48 hours is a good time to say, do you mind if I have time to do this and get back to you within 48 hours? I think if you take much longer than that, they're thinking, are you serious about this or not, right? And a week definitely just leaves me as an employer just out there too long wondering, are you within this week just going to stop talking? I mean, are you still interested? I don't know what's going on, right?
I think we also have to consider there's other candidates in the pool.
Right.
To where if you take 2 days and you take the full 2 days, and then the next person takes a full 2 days,
right,
and then the next person, it drags people's anxiety out longer than we need to. If you know it's going to be a no, just call them back and say no.
Right.
Don't wait for the 48-hour,
Exactly.
stopwatch to go off before you call them back. If you've made your decision, call them back, let them know what it is so that they can move on and you don't keep the other people waiting.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about accepting offers and how to handle that and asking for time. This is the tricky one, right? How to handle rejection. How to handle rejection gracefully at that, right? Just tell us some strategies behind that and what you'd encourage our listeners to do when they are rejected an offer.
Yeah, this is a good one. I personally, I've been on that end. I've been where I was down to 2 candidates, and I received a phone call that said, "Hey, we really, really loved you. This other person just had a little more experience than you had, right?" As I was a younger professional, and what I tried to do at that point is just let them know how appreciative I was that they took the time they did with me, and that we got an opportunity to meet them, and how, if there was ever an opportunity again with them, I'd love to apply. What I wanted to do is leave the door open, so when they left, they go, "Man, should we have hired that guy?" Right? Like, and I felt like they said that when they got off. It's like, "Man, we really did like you." You know what I mean? And I wanted to just leave that open, and them excited if I did apply again. They go, "Yeah, that we loved him," right?
Yeah. And I like feedback too, to where if you get that denial, can you say, "Can you tell me some things that I can improve, some skills I could build, some experiences I could have?" And then really take that personally to where the next time you're interviewing for this position, they would look foolish not choosing you. You've improved yourself and you've taken their words to heart, improving yourself as an applicant.
Yeah, and one other thing I like to remind students of is it's not always, it's obviously not fun usually to get the call saying you didn't get a job, but it's also not fun to be the one to have to call people and tell them you didn't get a job. And so, what they're looking for is, they're just hoping that it goes smoothly, right? And that you're able to kind of just gracefully say, "You know what, thank you for letting me know. And, I appreciate just getting the time or taking the time to get to know me. And, just know that no one's excited telling you that you didn't get a job. So it's good to just handle that with grace and just say, thanks for letting me know. Really liked getting to know you guys."
Well, and I think that's on us as the receiver of that call to make sure that we are positive, right? Again, as you've said, I didn't like making those calls when I had to as an employer, and so be positive. Let them know again, and you were enthusiastic, just the chance to work with them and go through the interview process, and let them know, I hope there's another opportunity that I get a chance to talk to you again, right? And that makes it easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've talked about accepting a job offer and now rejecting or being rejected, right? Let's talk about how to manage when you're offered multiple jobs at the same time.
This one's tough because the employers don't want to come in second. They want to think that they're the one that you've been dying to work at. You said yes. Everything is magical, and we run on the yellow brick road towards career success. And sometimes it's not like that. And you have multiple things. So time is honesty. Personally, this is just my personal opinion. I don't know that I'm saying I've got multiple offers coming in. I think I'm saying I need some more time to make sure this is the correct decision for myself and my family. And then I'm hanging up the phone and I'm calling the place where I really want to work and saying, "Hey, this is where I want to be. This is the job I really want to have. Where are we at? Can you give me a finish line of when is it going to be until we make the decision with them?" And just reinforce with them that they're really the place that you want to work, and see what you can do to rush them on that decision, so that you can also, have some honesty and integrity getting back to the other person if that one works out to be the same.
I think it's good advice. I mean, again, we have to be gracious through this process, and while you're trying to rush them through, not be too pushy through that process, right? I mean, so there's a nice balancing act we've got to do there. But for sure, I'm with you. Don't tell each employer that you applied for jobs and have other offers out there. Especially, don't be the person who uses that as leverage against an employer. I think, at that point, there may be where the employer just says, "You know what? Good luck with the other opportunity," right? And then hopefully the other opportunity does pan out at that. So, I've sat down with students here and said, "Okay, we need to make some decisions here. You just got an offer. I understand you're waiting on this, but how do you know you're even going to get that other job? You don't. And if you give this one up, now you may be out 2 jobs. So you just need to evaluate, is this a job that could help you get where your career goals are? Is it something that's going to help you grow as a professional? Does it meet the goals you have for yourself? If it does, then what are you waiting for, right? There may be an opportunity in the future with that other company when you've had some experience to apply again there, but there's no guarantee with the other jobs.
And I found when people have used that leverage and we buckled, they just use the leverage again later. It just becomes a habit at that point to where salary and things are always a negotiation with them when you buckle on the first thing. There's nothing wrong with negotiation, but when you directly leverage one versus another, it's not good.
Awesome. Thanks for touching on that. Last thing I wanted to ask about was exploding job offers. So an exploding job offer is an offer with a short deadline, right? For you to accept the job.
If any deadline, right?
If any, right? Like, tell me now, yes or no.
Right.
Just kidding. This is usually what some employers will use to pressure candidates, into making a decision quickly because either they're in a competitive market and they're looking for people now, right? Or whatever that looks like. So I guess tell us why exploding offers exist, and how to navigate those as the person getting that exploding offer. How do you handle an exploding offer when you truly don't know yet? You need to talk to your family and you need to make those decisions.
Well, first of all, I'll just say this. Employers, please avoid doing that to candidates. I mean, these are individuals who are, again, they have lives, they have families, and job changes aren't a small decision in life. They're not. You want them to be there for a while, and they're making a big decision in their life what they're going to do with the majority of their week, right? With the majority of their life over the next year or two, and so please, give them the grace to have that at least 24 to 48 hours to make a decision with their family. That's what I'd ask, number one. But in these cases where I know there's been times I've worked with students who've had exploding offers, I've sat down with them and just said, "Is this something you've dreamed for? Is this something you've wanted?" Right? If it's not necessary, then I ask myself, with these type of tactics, is this the type of employer you want to work for? Meaning, if they've given you an exploding offer and they're not budging at all for you to allow you some grace to talk to your family in that, do you really want to work for a company like that, right? Or a business that doesn't allow you grace to at least these things in your life, to work-life balance we talk about, right? And in this case, I'm trying to do that by at least talking to my family. So we've had some honest conversations, though. Sometimes students have accepted it with that because that's what they wanted to do, which is great. Other times they've reevaluated and said, I don't know if I want to, if this is, right off the bat, how what I'm getting from the employer. So
yeah.
I think these are dominant in sales and high pressure positions also.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of when you are expected to get people to give you an instant yes, those salespeople will come back with, hey, I'd like a day to think about this. To think about what? What are the questions you have? I'll answer them right now. Well, I'd like to talk to my wife. What's her number? Let's get her on the phone. They really push to get that yes out of you right now, when maybe the honest answer is you need to take a walk on it and you need to evaluate the multiple things that it may impact. What's the upward movement? What's a lot of the different things that you couldn't evaluate until this moment? So you should be doing your homework, but if you're here and this is just it, the exploding offer is typically not a positive thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks, listeners, for tuning in today on our podcast episode, Decisions and Destinations, Navigating How to Accept and Decline Opportunities with Poise. And, of course, grace, like we talked about. Jerry, why don't you wrap this one up?
You guys know that before this, I was studying to be a doctor, but I didn't have any patience.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Gosh.
I can see why you didn't make it.
Boo.